I know there has always been the issues about the cost of living. Of course, you'll agree with me that significantly this is coming down. Just even maybe as we proceed here, there'll be an announcement of the reduction of fuel prices, today. Currently, Kenyans can go to 46 countries in the world without any visa, 46 of them. We have been actually missing out on our agriculture, because of the fact that when there is a drought, or now that there is El Nino, you find that farmers really suffer when it comes to crops and livestock. Currently, Kenya receives 1.48 million tourists annually, and this visa-free entry will increase our international tourists to 2.5 million. The recorded diaspora members are about 535,000 spread across the whole, the whole world. So today, we are going to address various issues concerning the government policies, in particular, the cabinet resolutions that were done yesterday, issues to do with the diaspora, and any other matter. Let me first and foremost go straight to clarify what I've been seen being carried in our dailies in the newspaper concerning the issue of the free entry into the country, because I have seen that is a big issue that actually is affecting, it is being spoken about by many Kenyans. And I'll read as follows. The abolition of visa issuance to Kenya is meant to boost our tourism industry. Currently, Kenya receives 1.48 million tourists annually, and this visa-free entry will increase our international tourists to 2.5 million in the short term, and by 2026-2027, we are expecting to have 4.5 million tourists in the country. The tourism sector will actually have over 200% growth in terms of revenue. So that is very important. And also for your information, or for the information of the public, we will be able to, it's not just an entry. You have to be authorized electronically for you to come into the country. So that one is very important. Also, there is an integrated border management information system that will be in all our borders to ensure that, the information that pertains to every individual is well clarified. Number 3 is that the entry point will be, the entry term will only be 3 months, after which, if you are to stay longer, you have to apply either for residence or whatever other form that would make you to stay here longer. Also, it should be clarified to Kenyans that when you travel, you have to have a medical travel insurance so that you are able to take care of medical bills. And it's not a lot of money, it's 1,000, 2,000 shillings, but it is important. It's one of the prerequisites. Now, this policy is in support of the African Free Continental Trade Area, AfCOFTA. And as you may be aware, when the president announced that this is going to be done, a country like Rwanda went ahead to actually copy the same. So because Kenya is really a hub, and we want to trade with our fellow Africans so that we can get this. It is also for our knowledge, because I have also seen people saying that, is it reciprocal? Currently, Kenyans can go to 46 countries in the world without any visa. 46 of them. And that is very commendable. Another 152, you require some visa of a certain time, maybe on arrival or earlier on. And so that will increase this going forward. And Kenya is very keen to also open new consulates like the one in Bogota, Colombo, so that we can also access such a market going forward, and to take care of Kenyans and to actually entrench our diplomacy when it comes to issues like that. So that, I think, really addresses some of the questions, and maybe you can ask supplementary questions after this. I think the issue of agriculture insurance policy, just for your record, the reason why government sees this is important is because for a very long time, we have been actually missing out on our agriculture, because of the fact that when there is a drought, or now that there is El Nino, you find that farmers really suffer when it comes to crops and livestock. And the uptake of such a policy by insurance is very low. So this policy is extremely important to regulate that sector, and also to see to it that then our farmers are cushioned from that. And it's a very progressive policy. It's actually a very key achievement of this administration. The other one is also the issue of the agricultural extension services. There is an ongoing, there has been a policy since 2012, but then it is not well, synchronized, because agricultural extension services were stopped during the structural adjustment program's demands or conditionalities in the 1990s by the Bretton Woods institutions. So this policy recognizes that then it's not just government, but there are various other actors. And you can see, if you look at the history of our country, when there used to be these extension services, there was greater yield in terms of security. And it is not just by coincidence, because about 46% of our economy really depends on agriculture, directly and indirectly, 25% and directly, and the rest. So, and of course 70% in rural Kenya. So extension services is basically to provide intelligence or information about how to do various crops, how to do livestock farming, so that then we have greater yields. It's also good to tell you that Cabinet also passed the draft language policy, particularly to position Kiswahili as a language. By the main gist of that policy is to have the National Kiswahili Council. Wale ambao ni wapenzi wa lugha, it's also good you understand that now is official, that there will now be a National Kiswahili Council that will be very important in ensuring that we standardize our languages. Now, the gist also of our presser today, as you may be aware, there is a diaspora investment conference, the first that has ever happened in the history of our republic. It is happening yesterday, today, and tomorrow, and it's extremely important to note that our diaspora provides a very critical aspect of our essence of being as a country. And why do I say so? The recorded diaspora members are about 535,000 spread across the whole, the whole world. And the highest number being in America, followed by those that are living in the UK, about 139,400, and about 100,000 in Saudi Arabia. Actually, about 2,000 Kenyans are leaving for Saudi every week. And we have a bilateral labor agreement for about 350,000 people. Now, the remittances from these diaspora members is about $4 billion, translating to the current dollar rate of 155 or thereabout to about 624 billion. That's quite something. Now, we may be aware that the diaspora for Kenya is about 3 million, but we go by the record of 535,000 that are registered with the various embassies. And ladies and gentlemen, that is extremely critical, because that is a representation of about 1.07% of our population. If you project that Kenya currently, we are about 50 million. If you project that we are about 3 million, even the ones that are registered is about 8%. But these are people who are able to send money to Kenya, which is equivalent to 17% of our national budget of 3.7 trillion. Extremely important, because most of these monies is going to consumption, supporting families. So the more we have Kenyans out there, the better. And then the question would be, if then they are giving us this kind of money, actually $4.77 billion, and really closing in on exports, which is about $5 billion. Last year alone, that the remittances grew by 8.34%. This year, it is projected to grow by 14%. Then something must give. And what we are telling Kenyans in the diaspora is that first and foremost, you can access 14,000 services on your fingertips. So you don't need to come to travel to Kenya for you to actually benefit from government services. Also, if you look at the Boma Yangu, platform, you can actually buy a house instead of being cheated by local agents, including some who could be relatives, so that then you are able to diversify that. But also to move away now from consumption, to move away from consumption to actually investment. And that's why there is now the diaspora fund, so that then you see how is it that Kenyans can actually benefit from the monies of their fellow Kenyans out there. And it is quite interesting because the children of our diaspora who may not really have an attachment to our motherland, they are earning even up to 10 times more than their parents. And so even we can tap that and use it even for infrastructure development and other areas of economic endeavor. I think it's a very, very good thing. It is, of course, envisaged that eventually, as a government, that even the members of the diaspora will have representation, even in our organs of governance. If you go to France, you actually find that there are members of parliament who represent the diaspora there. I have met some in person, some of them in person. So I think it's conceivable that even in the near future, with such kind of support that they are giving to our country in terms of even in terms of foreign exchange, that they should also be represented in government. Even the 12 nomination slots, there should be maybe 1 or 2, and even other structures of international representation, so that they can actually do well. And one actually would ask the question, why is it that then diaspora is important and that we are actually issuing this presser today? If you look at the countries that are actually developing or have developed quite fast in the last few decades, you will talk about China and India, right? Now, for the Chinese that are out of China, there are about 10.7 million of them. But if you include their descendants, there are about 60 million. And they are able to contribute quite a huge amount of money in terms of technology transfer, in terms of knowledge management, in terms of jobs and skills. And that is how we are going to leverage this as a country. If you go again to China, you find the figures is about 19 million Indian people across the world, and contributing quite a bit. And these two economies are projected to actually be the two single most economies by 2048, even ahead of the USA. So the diaspora remittances are critical. They are very salient to our economy, and so therefore the Kenyan government is extremely keen to ensure that we actually do something about it. And that's why you see for the first time there's a whole State Department for Diaspora Affairs that whose actually leverage is to ensure that we take care of the welfare of Kenyans. And how has that happened? For example, about over 9,000 Kenyans have been given consular services on a mobile basis, mobile consular services. Na hiyo tunaita huduma mashinani majuu in 22 countries, so that then they are able to renew their passports. They are able to to get whatever they would have not gotten if they had not gone to that council. They've had to go to the consulate far away from where they are working or living. So that is extremely important. Out of that also there have been over 30 fora, either in person, town hall meetings, or through webinars to engage with our Kenyans. And part of the conversation that have been there even includes a change of certain laws, law reform, so that then they can actually benefit from that. Kenya has also been very keen to evacuate, our citizens when they are in distress, either from medical. About 1,400 such individuals have been assisted, and that shall continue. And one of the most commendable thing is the fact that Kenya was actually the first country to evacuate, Kenyans in distress in Israel, Gaza, and in Sudan, despite the fact that we don't even share a border with those countries. So, ladies and gentlemen, we've also had cases of people being trafficked to go and do slave work in Malaysia, and particularly Myanmar, former Burma, and Kenya has also, the government of Kenya has been able to actually intervene in that regard. This has also resulted from concerted efforts. I don't think nowadays you hear a lot of cases of mistreatment of people in the Gulf countries, especially in Saudi Arabia and such places, because there is a very clear global labor migrant stabilization policy that really, through training and capacity, has focused on the issue of protection, regulation of such practices, so that then Kenyans are not mistreated abroad. And that is an ongoing endeavor, so that then we ensure that you don't go to earn money and then you're treated like a slave out there. So it's extremely important, because Kenya wants to position talent in terms of what we can offer. And Kenyans are very gifted people. I remember recently I was in Namibia and I found a lady, Victoria Mwaniki, who is actually an MD of a huge chain of hotels there. So that kind of leveraging is important. Of course, you may be aware about the issue of nurses in the UK and such other places, so that then we are able to benefit from that. So, ladies and gentlemen, this country is great. This country has a lot to offer, and I really want to ask ourselves to really be positive about what Kenya is up for grabs for. I know there has always been the issues about the cost of living. Of course, you'll agree with me that significantly this is coming down. Just even maybe as we proceed here, there'll be an announcement of the reduction of fuel prices, today. Just to explain to you about the fuel prices, the reason why, for example, they may not reduce as the international market is because we buy our fuel 2 months in advance. 2 months in advance. So the price you get here was for 2 months in advance, because we have a 6-month or 180-day period, a cushioning period, so that we are not able to fluctuate as is usually the case. But going forward, it is a position of government that you will see a significant drop in plus prices internationally, and therefore that will actually translate into better prices here in Kenya. And the pricing of fuel is done in 2 ways. Just for your own statistics, because it's good to have it, is the tax, the premium charges, which is about 79 shillings to the petrol per liter, and the rest depends on the international fluctuation. So at least these ones are actually controlled. The rest is about the international. But of course, because of our G2G plan, 2 months in advance, we have 8 ships that come to the country, out of which 4 are super, and then you have 4 are diesel, 3 are super, and one is kerosene stroke jet fuel. So it's already properly planned, so that then you are able to predict. So we are assuring as government that we will have a reduction of fuel going forward, beginning today. That is the position of government. Of course, just as again to reiterate what has been discussed, is that because of court cases and people going to demand that certain things be delayed for them to get justice, that explains partly why we've had blackouts, because there was a whole idea of doing a new line for a national grid at a cost of 35 billion. But then it has been delayed because even that money was available. There were some contractors on ground, but they had to leave because of this delay. And so sometimes also, when we have these litigations, it is your right, yes, and we agree, but of course it delays development. It actually scatters some of the interventions the government wants to do, that then of course end up hurting Kenyans. So yeah, in short, ladies and gentlemen, you'll get this statement, but those are the issues that we'd want to address.